I'm here with Margaret, and today we're doing part one of Suck, Swallow, Breathe. Now, believe it or not, this is very professional name. I mean, it's as professional as we can do it. And she's going to take it away, and she's going to tell you, first of all, what Suck, Swallow, Breathe is and why it's so important to all babies, teenagers, and even adults. And if you don't get this suck, swallow, breathe straightened out when you're a baby, then guess what? I'm going to tell you something. It's not just the surgeries are going to be worse, the pain is going to be worse, but it's actually life threatening because it can actually put somebody into anxiety, depression, and actual suicidal state. And this happens more than you know because people don't want to talk about it when they're teenagers or when they're older, when they have it. And guess what? We shouldn't be embarrassed to talk about this. We have to really bring this out. And the more we talk about this, the more we come together, the more we can help to heal each other. Margaret, do you want to tell them what Suck, Swallow, Breathe is?
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Margaret Stock, and I'm a licensed speech therapist or speech language pathologist. And my specialty is infant feeding, infant swallowing. So that's what I specialize in, and I work with babies.
Infant feeding, and infant swallowing. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to let her talk, and then I want to add something just a little bit because I don't know much about this. Actually, I just know a little bit about infant feeding and how it's been commercialized, and I'll mention that later, but I'm going to let her take it away. And I'm going to really try to see if I can be quiet.
So, as I said, I work with babies. I work with babies as young as 2 days old when they have difficulty feeding. And as we all know, but we tend to forget that breastfeeding is what's best for the baby. And like Dr. Wolf said, it has been, commercialized, and it has been downgraded to formula feeding and bottle feeding. And we now see the results from these babies that were bottle fed and formula fed. But anyways, going to babies, and why we name our video Suck, Swallow, Breathe, because those are primitive reflexes, and those are needed for us to survive when the baby gets here, when the baby's born. So let's talk about a little bit before
the baby gets here.
Before the baby gets here. So
when it's in the oven, getting its loving, hopefully.
Yeah. And so what happens is the baby's face develops in utero when the baby is anywhere, 8 to 10 weeks in utero. And that's when the development of the face happens. And so
8 to 10 weeks already has a face.
Yes. And by, moving on in pregnancy, the face is already done. And so pretty much there's not a whole lot more growth happening for the rest of the duration of the pregnancy when it comes to the face development. So by week 8 to 10, the face is pretty much done growing. And what happens is, there's a process of apoptosis that's occurring, which is elimination of cells. And during that process, something that...
Can you explain that just a little bit more?
Yeah. So when, the embryo, right, it's just one big shape, right? And then different parts of the body start to develop. And that's the process of apoptosis, when the cells start to disappear, and then we get the shape of the baby. So we get the shape of the face, we get the shape of the arms, our trunk.
You're not one big glob, but what happens is you start taking on shape. Right. Things start to stick out.
Exactly. So in that process of face development, during the process of apoptosis, when that is disrupted by, a chemical imbalance, stress, diet, like anything that happens to the mom while the baby is in the tummy, right?
And just remember that the chemical imbalance is usually caused by the stress of the mother. Mm-hmm. And so the chemical now is hindering the baby. Mm-hmm. And you have to, I'm not interrupting you.
No.
Okay, so you have to understand this, that when the mother is in a loving state, she's in a parasympathetic state. So she's dumping dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, which is the dose which the baby needs so badly. But she ends up getting HAC, which is histamine, adrenaline, cortisol. And that happens every time the father gets anxiety or she gets anxiety, or the doctor says, oh my God, I hope it has five fingers, five toes, whatever the case on, So the reality is the more anxiety you have, the more complications you're going to have.
Yep, that's right. So when that happens, we get babies that have compromised facial structures. And so then
because the mother can't face the pregnancy.
Right. By the time the baby is 20 weeks in utero, the baby starts to suck and swallow the amniotic fluid. So
we're amphibian. Get it? We're amphibians.
Yep.
Okay.
So we are already getting the practice of using our muscles and the structures of the face in utero, and starting at about week 20. By the time the baby is born, we had approximately 20 weeks, 18 weeks, depending on when the baby is here, of suck swallow practice. And then when the baby is born, then we have to add the breathing, because now the baby has to start breathing, right? So now we have suck, swallow, breathe coordination that the baby has to figure out how to do. And sucking and swallowing now is reflexive at that point. And then within the first 48 hours of the baby being born, it becomes the baby's feeling hunger, so it becomes nutritive. So now we're sucking and swallowing in order to get food. And so what happens is, if there's any dysfunction as far as the structure of the face, there's any tongue ties, any high narrow palate, the recessed jaw, anything like that the baby didn't get a chance or full chance to develop properly in utero, that is going to impact how the baby is now feeding. And a lot of times, moms are trying to breastfeed, and either the nurses and the doctors in the hospital say, oh, the baby's too lazy, the baby's too sleepy, or the mom has inverted nipples, or there's not enough milk, or whatever the excuse they're
and these are
with.
just excuses,
right? And most often is the solution is just, here's the bottle, and feed the baby with the bottle. But the bottle is just a compensation. And a lot of times some babies are not even functional on the bottle, so they continue to have issues.
And if I can say this, the so-called nurses and medical doctors that are supposed to be the hierarchy of health, which is not true, because they know nothing about health. Okay, they are actually programmed and taught to sway the corporate way, which is to the bottle, to the formula, because it's some kind of rejection of the mother or the mother's nipple or something like that, because they do not understand that this is a problem with the baby and not the mother and not the milk.
Exactly. So I work with a lot of babies who have tongue ties, and a lot of people know what that is or have heard of it, but there are actually 7 places in your mouth where you can have a tie, and properly we call them oral frena.
And that's actually a tissue connection that's not supposed to be there, that is actually constricting movement that needs to happen to actually survive.
Exactly.
And thrive.
Yeah. So a lot of babies that have tongue ties will also have a tie in the upper lip, lower lip, and then a lot of times we have the buckles or the cheeks that are super tight, and so there is not a lot of movement when they're coming onto the breast. They can't open their mouth wide enough to be able to latch. And then you can also have lower buccal ties, which is the 2 bottom ones over here. So there's 7 places in the mouth where you could have that restricted oral frena. And it can really make eating and sucking and swallowing and breathing difficult. So what happens is, we are meant to have our tongue resting on the roof of the mouth, and when the tongue is held down by that oral tie, then the baby is not able to make that connection. So when we're, sucking and swallowing, we have to compensate. We have to come up with different ways to do it, because the baby, like I mentioned before, now is motivated by hunger. They want to eat. They're going to start to develop in compensations, and they're going to start, tensing other muscles, using, lips inappropriately. So a lot of babies will have upper lip blister because of that friction. They can't use their tongue properly, so they're going to be compensating with the lips. They're going to be moving their jaw incorrectly, so now we have, TMJ issues later on. So, when we're
And when
born
you
with that.
get TMJ issues, that's when the baby, you think the baby's angry, but it's not. It's super frustrated.
Exactly. And I see those babies that are, they're trying their best to eat, but they can't. And they're being called lazy or whatever, and it's not fair. But what I was going to say is, we're born with a certain structure, right, that I was mentioning, and now the baby has to figure out how to function, how to make those muscles work around it. And so we get the structure. Now we have the function. But as the baby's growing and developing, that function is going to dictate how the face continues to grow. Obviously,
It will morph
exactly
for survival.
Mm-hmm. So the muscle function, now how we're going to figure out how we're eating and swallowing, how we're sucking, swallowing, and then breathing. Where is our tongue resting when we're, not doing the first two, is going to dictate how the face is going to grow and develop. And then we see all kinds of other issues, but that's going to be in part 2 and part 3 when we
we'll have
come
part
back.
2 tomorrow. We'll have part 3 on Monday. We'll try to keep it close to 12 noon, but we're seeing a lot of patients while I'm here in Chicago, so we're busy doing patients. So we'll try to get as close to noon Central Time, won't we?
Yes.
Try.
But anyway, so the baby, when the tongue is tied, we want to make sure that we get the proper assessment, not only just looking at what the tie looks like, but also what functions it has. So
1 second. 1 second.
How many packages you signing?
What?
Mama.
How many packages you're
Can
sending?
you sign?
Yeah, I'll try to sign.
Okay, and then can we keep it quiet?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are for the course.
I get it.
Yeah.
Packages for the course.
Or for the lectures. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we have a lecture Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
but that's sold out. We have another one Monday at Bolingbrook Golf Course, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
so there's very few places left. So if people are interested, we'll talk about that later. Though.
Yeah. So I'm trying to go back. Okay. So the tongue tie. So what we want to make sure is that we do proper assessment. So that's where I come in, and I assess how the baby's eating and swallowing, where the oral rest posture is, where the baby's keeping the tongue at rest, out their nose breathing, out their mouth breathing, and then what other implications does that have on the rest of the body? Because we know that the tongue is attached through connective tissue to the rest of your body, all the way down to your big toe. So if you are tight in your mouth and you can't move your tongue, it's going to affect other things. So I have
your neck, your throat.
Yeah. So if you have babies that have torticollis, you look at the tongue function. I mean, it's there. And if you have babies that ever need a helmet, look at the tongue function. It's all goes together.
What else should I look for?
In babies, babies that are spitting up constantly, babies that are constipated, babies that are fussy, and
if you're locked up at the front door, you're locked up at the back door. Yes,
babies who eat frequently, so they will eat 5-10 minutes, fall asleep at the breast, and then they are hungry again half an hour later,
because they're exhausted because of all of these physical blocks. Because remember, every physical block will not allow the flow of energy. And so when the energy is blocked, the baby has to work 10 times harder.
Right. And so we have babies that are really dysregulated. They're called the fussy or colicky baby, but it's their nervous system just.
And they don't even have a personality yet,
Exactly.
But we've already branded them.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's because of lack of proper information and knowledge. And that's what most doctors and nurses are suffering from. And it's not the doctors and nurses' fault. Understand that. But the reality is that everything about health is dysfunctional today.
Yeah. And so we have these babies that are very dysregulated. They can't sleep. You know, a baby's job is to eat, poop, and sleep. That's all they should be doing. And when you have a baby that can't settle, can't sleep, that you constantly have to carry around and you know, rock to sleep and do pacifiers and things like that, this is just nervous system dysregulation, and it's not normal. And babies don't grow out of it, they grow into other problems from there.
And do you know what's not normal? It's not normal that all this information is hidden, hidden, not forgotten, but hidden from parents. And so parents are tortured because they go, my gosh, we're responsible for this child. You know, we see so many parents, and it's not even about this condition, it's every condition, even a fever. Parents don't even know what to do with their children for a fever, which would be a nice warm water black diamond or enema with or using tummy love.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to get off track, but I'm trying to tell you that you've all been ruled and screwed. Okay.
Yep. So so that's that. So I look at the function, I look at what, you know, what's going on with the baby, and then I like to call myself the party planner, because then I kind of direct the care from there. I refer to I call him my oral surgeon, Dr. Milton Gavelis, who is you know, specializes in releasing these ties, and he is one of the best in the country that we have here in Chicago. So we're very blessed to have him here.
How does he do it? Do you mind talking about that?
So it's a CO2 laser that he uses, and the procedure is very, very quick. It takes just 3 seconds to release the tongue. You know, depending on how thick the upper lip is, may take 5 to 7 seconds, and then, you know, depending on what else the baby has going on, as far as, you know, what else things that need to be released. But the procedure is very, very quick. We then do post-op care. I see the baby 24 hours afterwards. I make sure that the parents know how to do the stretches, what they need to do as far as preventing scar tissue reattachment. And, you know, you follow my protocol, follow Dr. Gable's protocol, we never have an issue. And then once we have
something so simple,
Mhm.
okay, that can change the lives of not
Yep.
just the baby, but the parents.
Parents.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Yep. And we, you know, follow the protocols for best healing. We want to make sure that there's no scar tissue whatsoever, because, you know, we don't want to let that kind of settle. And then we teach the baby how to do the things correctly, you know, how to suck, swallow, and breathe correctly, so that we can ensure that the baby's face develops properly, that they have the best chances of developing the rest of their skills that they need for chewing and swallowing and maneuvering food in their mouth when they are ready to start, you know, eating solid foods. And then speech development. But the most important thing that gets missed when it comes to face and you know, what we do is the sleep part. Is when you are not keeping your tongue to the roof of your mouth, where is it going to go when you go lay down? It's going to fall right into your airway. It's going to block your airway. So then your nervous system, your brain is going to do whatever it takes to keep you alive. Number one function of your brain is to keep you alive by breathing. So it's going to extend your neck, open your mouth, you know, move you this way, move you that way, whatever it needs to do to keep you alive. And when your brain is too occupied on just keeping your breathing, the other things that are supposed to be happening during sleep are not. You know, you're not cleansing, you're not restoring. Babies are not developing new brain cells.
Only so much energy. Energy has to be sent to wherever the need is first. And the first need in any human is survival. So if the survival mode takes over, then the healing mode stops. You think I'm kidding? Take a look at, I've had cancer 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. I'm a cancer survivor. So if you're in a state of fright, flight all the time, you're never going to heal. That's why people say, I get up, I'm never rested. I never feel good anymore. So the reality is the baby may not be understanding what's going on, but remember something, that caveman impulse is always going to kick in, and it's going to stay there until the threat is over.
Right.
And so just like somebody who has a disease and can't find out the answer when there is no such thing as a disease, just symptoms. And understand, these symptoms with the baby will lead to long-term dysfunction as a teenager, young adult, and right into their adult life. That's why we're going to do part 2 tomorrow and part 3. But go ahead.
Yeah,
Keep going.
that's exactly correct. And like I was saying before, the function is going to dictate how the face continues to grow and develop. And you know, what's going on with our mouth, where our, you know, how our teeth are going to come out, right? All of that is attached to the bones. So if your tongue is not resting on the roof of your mouth, so I got my little baby over here to show you guys, but this is you know, the skull of the baby. And what happens is the tongue has to be on the roof of the mouth. And if the tongue is not sealed to the roof of the mouth, what happens is the pressures from the cheeks are pushing up on these bones. And so this maxilla, right, our upper jaw, it's going to be squished in, and it's going to go up high and narrow instead of being nice and flat, how, you know, this looks, right? So this is what we want for our palate. We don't want it to be vaulted. We don't want it to be high and narrow. And you got to remember that the roof of your mouth is the floor of your nose. So if this is, you know, going to go high up, it's going to take away from your nasal space. Now we have kids that can't breathe through their nose, that they have, you know, they have deviated septums. They have
Breathing through their mouths.
they're breathing through their mouth. So now the air is not being filtered. The air is not being cleaned.
Guess
So
what else? The air is not being structured. When the air goes in through your nose, it actually gets structured like the structure water unit that we use. And when you have structured air, then guess what? You lower the surface tension of the air and it gets into the brain and into the cells 1,000% better. You better get that. So now it gets the carbon dioxide out, the CO2 out easier.
Yep.
So that's got to come in. And if that doesn't, see, all this has to happen, right?
And then also in the nose, did you know that there's nitric oxide that's made in the nose? And nitric oxide is only being made in the nose, and nitric oxide has antibacterial, anti-inflammation properties, and a long list of other, you know, health benefits. But you can only get it when you're breathing through your nose. So you're missing out on all these, you know, health benefits from nitric oxide if you're breathing through your mouth. But what is worse with the mouth breathing is now we're breathing the air that's not filtered, not warm. You know, it's cold. And then we get soft tissue inflammation. So we get adenoids and tonsils. And all these kids are going for, you know, tonsillectomy and surgeries and, you know, all these things taken out, where all we have to do is reteach them how to breathe through their nose and make sure that they can.
Never get the tonsils cut out, okay? You remember the tonsils are the guard dog. When there's problems with the tonsils and there's inflammation, it means that there's other problems. It's not the tonsils that are the problem. Now, if the tonsils were to stay inflamed for a long time, then we can have degeneration of the tonsils. I get it. But those tonsils are a lymph node. They make lymphocytes, phagocytes. They actually create infection fighters. Okay, they are the guard dog of what comes in here. And understand something. And other times you can actually have tonsillitis because you actually have a blocked cecum. But that's another story.
So that's the structure of the face, and then why the function is important. And what I also wanted to talk about is, you know, bottles and pacifiers. There are situations where, you know, breastfeeding is not possible, right? But we want to make sure that we select the tools that we want. There's a lot of mismarketing, misinformation out there with baby products. You go to the store and you got all the stuff there, and the best one wins that has like the most colorful graphics or whatever. And they, you know,
or the best name
that has been advertised more often, and you've seen
Total
it.
Baby.
You've heard of it more, and like everybody's using it, so it must be the
did
best.
Did you hear?
Right. So
it's the latest, greatest, newest, improved.
Yeah. And it's not true, because there's very little research done actually in all the baby products that are out there when it comes to proper mouth development, when it comes to skill and function and growth, how the structure develops. So we want to make sure that we look at things really critically and think about logically what it is that the baby needs to do. So when the baby is latching on the breast, we want to make sure that, you know, I got my little breast over here. So we want to make sure that the baby has a good mouth opening, so that jaw excursion has to be really good for the baby to get a good latch on the breast. And then inside the mouth, the tongue has to come under and grab the nipple to be able to seal that against the roof of the mouth. So if the baby is tongue tied, right, if the baby's not able to do that, then they're going to be trying to come up with some other creative way of doing it, or they're just going to get really discouraged and they're going to be frustrated and then push the breast out, and not going to be able to feed properly. So looking at the different things that we have available to use, we want to make sure that we provide the best options for babies to develop those skills properly. So I have, and this is not a commercial or anything, but this is Dr. Brown bottle, and is one of the best.
Well, it is a commercial because it's a better bottle.
It is the best bottle for feeding,
So
if you have to bottle feed. And one of the main reasons why I like the Dr. Brown bottles, I don't know if you knew, but they've done a study when they studied the sizes of the nipple. Do you know, like when you go to a store and they have the different sizes, and one is like 0 to 3 months, 6 to 9, whatever, or like size 1, size 2, size 3. So what they studied was the flow of the nipple. So the hole that's in the nipple, and if you get a package of, let's say, 3 nipples inside a box, and they all are size 1, they all have a different flow. They all have a different flow. So the baby never knows if this is going to be fast flow, this is going to be slow flow, or I'm going to have to work harder for this one. I'm going to have to be really on guard for this one because it's going to flow really fast for me. So Dr. Brown has the most consistency when it comes to the nipple size. Okay. So the baby is getting what it's getting every single time. If you have a size 1 nipple, the flow is the most consistent. It's the same. So the baby doesn't have to be on guard all the time, not knowing what's happening with this bottle.
Right.
So, and that's kind of goes hand with, stressing in the nervous system of that baby. So anyways, so that's another reason why I like Dr. Brown's. But what we want to make sure is that we have narrow nipples on the bottle so that the baby can come with the tongue underneath and cup it. We need that cupping ability for the baby to go up against the roof of the mouth and be able to suction off and be able to use that wave-like movement of that tongue up and back to be able to create that vacuum, that seal effect, and be able to draw out the milk.
Right.
What happens if they're not able to do that? They're going to start chumping, and they're going to start, chewing on the nipple. And on the breast, they can't really get the milk out when they're chewing, because that vacuum effect has to happen in the breast in order for the milk to start flowing, in order to that milk to be drawn out. But on the bottle, they can really compensate and just squeeze the nipple, and then some milk is going to come out. So I have babies that 3 ounces of milk, it takes them like an hour to eat. And then they're hungry again.
Well, that's because they burnt all the calories.
Exactly.
Okay, so everything is energy. They expend almost more energy than they got from the product. So you better make sure that the milk you're using isn't cow's milk. You better make sure that it's a better quality of milk. Can you make any suggestions?
Well, the best milk is breast milk.
Yeah.
If you're a mom that can't breastfeed for whatever reason, there's donations. You can do donated milk. That's the best. But if you have to go formula, you want to make sure that you do organic and do something that's not non-dairy.
I'm telling you, formula. I'm going to tell you something. You can think I'm an extremist, but guess what? There's formulas out there that are actually murdering babies. So you need to understand something. The food industry is not your friend. The food industry, I hope you know that. Why don't you do some homework? The food industry is owned by the tobacco industry. So, 1 and 1 sometimes are 11, not 2.
Yeah. And so, if you're a mom, or if you're about to be a mom, and you don't know if you want to breastfeed or not, there's nothing better than your milk.
And if you can't get your milk,
get donated one. And there's I have moms that have access of milk, and they're donating all the time. So if you just do some research, go on different Facebook groups. You can find local donation banks, and you can.
We have to stick together as human
Mhm.
beings, okay? Do not count on a corporation, okay, to help your baby. All right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you guys have any questions, anything I can answer for you. I know some of the moms that come to me, they're just so tired, not only from, not getting the answers that they need, caring for the baby, not getting the support that they need.
Can I tell them what we're doing?
Yeah.
So, we've been working on an app now for a long time. This is the first of its kind. And Margaret's going to be doing her own weekly show. So you'll be able to come on and you'll be able to send your questions in, or you'll be able to come on live and ask your questions. And she's going to do a weekly show. Do you know what that's going to mean? Okay, to everybody? All right.
Yeah. So, I just want to say to all the moms out there, just listen to your gut. That's the best way. And just follow your heart, listen to your gut. Don't let anybody, talk you down. Don't anybody tell you that there's something wrong with your milk, your breast,
Yeah,
or
don't
the
let a
baby.
specialist tell you, because they're not special. And if it's a man, don't listen to him at all. Okay? Unless he's showing his feminine side.
Mhm.
And I'm serious.
Yeah.
Okay?
And you really want to make sure that you go and seek help from somebody who specializes in it. Unfortunately, pediatricians have no
Idea.
clue.
Not, and you know what? They're not just no clue. They're dangerous, most of them.
Mhm.
Not all of them. I didn't say that. But the reality is, why don't you just ask the mothers that go to them and find out? Okay? Remember, again, they're not based on real health. And they're not based on real science either. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I have parents that kind of make their way to me when the baby is, 4 or 5 months, and we already have compensations that have developed. So at that point, we have a little more work to do to undo all the motor patterns that the baby has developed thus far. But
the longer your baby
Mhm.
stays with a dysfunctional pediatrician or doctor, and it keeps on doing the same habits, it's going to create more scar tissue, and it's going to cause more displacement of joints and muscles and ligaments and tendons and brain function.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, all these parents will go from pediatrician to the ENT to the GI doctor because the baby's spitting up, and,
Round and around we
colicky,
go.
and they've tried the GERD drops or medication and nothing's helping. And really, you have to evaluate how the baby is sucking, swallowing, and breathing. That's the basic of that. So I don't know. What
Oh, good.
else?
And
Yeah.
we're going to lose reception here pretty soon. Tomorrow we'll make sure the phones are charged, and this was not on Wi-Fi. Okay.
Got
You
it.
see, this one's holding great.
Yeah.
But we'll make sure tomorrow that we get our act together. Okay.
But well, listen, I'm here, you guys. I'm
What's your
located.
phone number?
Yeah, I'm located in Plainfield, Illinois, and I can do telehealth also anywhere in Illinois and Indiana if you guys need any help, any assistance. But you can reach directly find me on my cell phone 773-322-3988. Look my clinic up on Facebook. My website is being redesigned, but should be live by tomorrow. But my clinic is Advanced Therapy and Wellness Center, and I have a team of therapists that I work alongside with, and we specialize in infant feeding, pediatric feeding, swallowing, myofunctional therapy, anything that has to do with face dysfunction, speech, language, you name it. So we do all that stuff. And then I'm also a newer practitioner. So I also practice both non-surgical and, do the nutritional and emotional consultations. So if you guys need any help out there, just feel free to get in touch with me.
And just know that we will be doing, we're completely sold out for the lecture tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. But we have the lecture on Sunday. Oh, no, Sunday. And
Monday.
Monday, we still have some spots if you're interested in attending. That is taking place at
There's already 100 and what?
70.
170 people. So yeah,
Yeah.
So there's about 30 spots left, right?
Yeah.
Or something?
Mm-hmm. So that is happening at the Bolingbrook Golf Club.
And I want you to understand, it's not a lecture where I'm going to lecture at you. Come with your questions. Come with the challenges that you find in your life on an emotional, physical, nutritional level. I don't want to, I'd really like to do a lecture where I'm not lecturing at you, where I'm answering your questions and you go, and you know what? I can go home and take massive personal action. And understand, if you go to NWP World Tour.com, you're going to be able to see there that I'm lecturing all over the world in the next 8 months. That's all I'm doing, is living in 2 suitcases and traveling and lecturing for free, and then doing New World Practitioner trainings. Plus, we're doing what's called pelvic restoration and disease prevention. It's a 3-day class for women. And we're also doing another one called Braveheart Circle. If you'd like to find your authentic self, and you don't want the anxiety, the depression, if you don't want to live in pain on a physical or emotional level, please go and read about this. Okay.
Yeah, so we have the courses happening here in Bolingbrook in June. June 19th starts the Whole Life Coach, and then we have Dr. Sage coming in 10 days later to start the Wolf non-surgical, and then we have the pelvic course.
Yeah, the Whole Life Coach is 9 days, and then there's a day off, and then that's the Whole Life Coach, and that's a certification. It's an intensive emotional, nutritional course if you're really wanting to bring your game on. And people, we'll have nurses come, chiropractors come, lay people come. We'll have people come that don't want to be certified to do it for a living. They just want to go deep. All right. And then we have the 12 days of the Wolf non-surgical. And I'm telling you, it is the most powerful body work. Please go read about it. If you go to my library at docofdetox.com, go in and take a look at Reverse the Irreversible and watch the video or read about that. You'll have the best explanation about why you age, why you have why you have this inflammation, why you have the pain, the swelling, the stiffness, okay? And why, okay, you're just doing okay for your age. We want to stop that nonsense, okay? You can reverse the irreversible, just know that, okay? And then at the end of all this, we're doing a 3-day course called pelvic restoration. And that is for women. It's a 3-day course. You ever hear about a vaginal infusion? Did you ever hear that you can make the pelvis into the most healthiest and vibrant tissue in your body, and that a woman can actually do vaginal infusions and heal brain tumors? That's right. It's the gateway to healing in your body.
Yep. So if you guys want to come and join us for the Monday lecture, feel free to text me or call me. I'll send you the registration link. Again, my cell phone number is 773-322-3988.
And if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, you can call me at 469-861-8884. And just remember, your questions matter. You matter. And until you become the master of your mind, you'll never become the master of your body and never become the light for your family. Give that a thought, okay? And 3, 2, 1, unleash your brave heart.
I got this.
Bye now.
Bye.
We'll see you tomorrow.